Okay. Hey, everyone. It's good to see you again. This is Gary Wise here with Wise Leadership Solutions, going live via LinkedIn. I'm very excited today for this conversation because we get to have Mr. Myles McConico join me today here, and we're going to talk about an upcoming community event that they're going to have here in Ocala, which is a real big deal, as well as some of the fun things that they have going on here in Ocala. So without further ado, let me go ahead and bring Mr. McConico to the stage. Hi, Myles. How you doing, man?
Doing good. I'm doing good. I'm glad to be here.
Oh, man, I appreciate you being here, man. So for everyone out there in LinkedIn world or whoever's watching us, I first met Myles at the Veterans Park here in Ocala a couple of weeks ago at the Veterans Day commemoration. So it was a military heritage weekend, right?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Yeah, it was a military heritage weekend, and the cadets I'm a Vanguard high school instructor, and our cadets were drilling. And Myles had saw us drilling, and he had came up and said, "Hey, they look sharp, and would you guys be interested in coming to getting involved in an event that we're going to do here in Ocala?" And that was our first introduction. But Myles, I'm curious to know, how long have you been in Ocala?
Pretty much all my life. Excluding my time away in the service, obviously, but I was born and raised here in Marion County, in a small town called Reddick. So last time I looked at the population, I think we have a whopping 394 residents, on this side of the county. So I grew up north side of the county, very rural, area. And so I went to school at Dr. N.H. Jones Elementary. And so that's pretty much how, my connection with the city of Ocala began. Everyone I grew up with were born and raised in Ocala as well. Anytime I wasn't out here in the country, I was always back in the city of Ocala with my friends and other relatives.
So you said Reddick, that's northern Ocala. So did you go to high school like North Marion, or was that high school you went to?
Yep. So North Marion Middle and High.
So y'all are like the big rivals of Vanguard, man.
Yeah.
Like every year, especially for the football games, because I get to go to football games throughout the year.
Right.
The cadets do color guards for the football games, and I tell people, so I spent a lot of time in the military overseas.
Mm-hmm.
And people would always be watching the news or watching America back home through the lens of the news and be worried about everything back home. And I tell all my friends, like, man, just go to a high school football game on a Friday night. Like, you ain't got nothing to worry about, man. It is great. The community is so cool. And the North Marion game is always one of the games that I think it gets the most attention. Like Booster Stadium will be full. It will be a full house for that game. And so you grew up here in Ocala area, Marion County area, and then I think you Army, right?
Yes, sir, Army.
Okay, and when did you join the Army?
So I joined the Army in 2011. So it was my senior year. I started talking to different recruiting stations around town. Did my homework on every branch. I come from a military family, so it wasn't that shocking of a thing to even think about going into the military in a general sense. For me individually, yes, I was a little bit more of a rebel, growing up, but I looked at the different branches and it came down between the Navy and the Army. The Navy, I wanted to go SWIC, but the class for that was so far out at the time, and I didn't really want to sit around and wait. So then the Army, they came to me with a pretty solid offer, MOS I wanted. And so one thing led to another. I shipped out August 16th, 2011. So I had a very short, summer, if you will, after graduating high school. And I was in Fort Benning, Georgia. So we were one of the first training classes of cavalry scouts to move to Fort Benning from Fort Knox. So that was the experience.
I bet.
Yeah.
So you joined the Army like right out of high school.
Right out of high school. Yep.
And you said short summer, so they got you what you wanted. They got what you're looking for, and the way you went, and then right to basic training. Was that Did you do anything in high school, like ROTC or any of those things, or did?
Surprisingly, no. My brother is actually the ROTC kid. He he was a drill team commander at North Marion High. Won all types of awards and everything like that. So in our family, we just assumed that was the route he was going to go. But he decided to go a different route, and I was the one that originally I was looking at just going to school, University of Florida. Eventually looking at law enforcement. I was interested in being a U.S. Marshal. But again, I was looking at wanting to go out and do something in a more rapid format. So I ended up going to the Army. I mean, I talked with them, talked to recruiters, talked over my parents, and my parents were very stickler. So I basically had to write a summary, not a summary, but a full essay to my parents about why I was joining the military, what I thought I could get out of it, and everything else. And this is coming from a military family, but that just goes to show how important it is to understand why you do what you do.
Well, man, and look, coming from a military family and now having served, we're gonna make you answer those questions. Yeah. We know, like, it's one thing to talk about the military. It's another thing to be inside them, to be there.
Correct.
And don't be wrong. When it's good, it's great.
Yeah.
Man, when it's tough, it can be a challenge. And I'm an ROTC instructor, and I'm not a recruiter. I don't have a vested interest in any of these young people going to join the service. And I've got strong opinions all ways, right? Like I've got a son who's 17 years old right now. And I can tell you things that might shock you, right? As far as my perspective of what I've seen throughout my career.
Right.
And I love the military. I love everything that I love all the chances I got. And I love all the experiences. But I would definitely have those questions for my child to answer for me.
Right.
Well, I mean, because look, you're going to do what you're going to do, right?
Yeah.
The other thing I've learned is these kids at the high school age, they've got these ideas, 9th, 10th grade, 11th grade. And then all of a sudden senior year hits and it starts getting really real.
Yeah.
Really quick, right. And if it doesn't pan out the way you thought it was going to, the military options start looking pretty good.
Yeah.
Because, it's a place to live. They're going to give you some money, get you out of the situation. And what's the worst that can happen?
Right.
At that moment, that's your thing.
Yeah.
You're not really putting together like, I could wake up in Germany, like, so when you went through basic training, where were you? Like, so you were in Georgia, and then how long were you there for? Did you get deployed anywhere?
So we was there for 16 weeks in OSUT. And then after that, we graduated right around this time, all those years ago. It was Christmas break coming up, Christmas leave. So we had time to go to Christmas leave right after OSUT. And then we received our orders pretty much right before the graduation ceremony. So I knew I was going to Fort Riley, Kansas. And, I was a little bit hurt by that because I was like,
nothing against Kansas, but
nothing against the state of Kansas. But
bro, once upon a time, I was a Navy recruiter, right? And I was a Navy recruiter in Clearwater, Florida, which is how I first got connected to the state of Florida, right? Because I met my wife when I was a recruiter, and then when I retired from the service, we wanted to go back to Florida. But I was a recruiter, right? And the recruiter for the Army, we would go together once in a while. We would do like co-presentations, and she would take like a pen, right? And she would throw it in the middle of the room and say, "This is you in the Navy," and throw it, and this is you in the Navy in the ocean, right? And all the kids would be like, "Dang!" And I used to take, okay, you're funny. All right, I got you. I'd take the pen and throw it in the middle of the. So this is you, and this is Missouri.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's just not. People don't always understand where military laydowns are located.
Yeah.
And that's when you're picking your branch of service, right? That's one of the things you kind of want to think about. You know? Ultimately, again, I always tell people, anywhere the Navy goes, there's going to be a beach.
Yeah.
It's going to be a beach. Now, of course, that's not always true, depending upon what you get into, but that thing. So anyway, you ended up going to Kansas.
Yeah. So I ended up stationed with the Big Red 1, so the first Army Division. So I was out in Kansas, and again, I was born and raised in Florida my whole life. So I'm going to the Midwest in the winter. You know, so
I felt that just through the way. Oh,
so I learned pretty quick that I'm like, yeah, you know, some potential mistakes were made, but nah,
But did you get like a good sponsorship experience when you got to your first duty station?
Yeah, no, I did. It was a good experience. It was just it was a culture shock for me.
I'm sure.
Being born and raised in Florida, I mean, and in Marion County, where you a day trip away from so many, you know, amazing locales and attractions, and now you're in the heartlands, and you know, you just have brown wheatgrass and wind. You know, that's all you have. So I remember when I got there, they did say, they were like, oh, well, you know, it is a college town here, Manhattan, Kansas, and you know, K-State is there. So they were like, oh, you know, Aggieville is crazy. You know, if you ever been around a college town, it's the same thing. So in my head, I'm comparing Gainesville with. So another big mistake on my part. So I go to Aggieville, and it's just like a single strip, like just a little road, maybe, you know, a couple hundred feet. And it's just, you know, so it was just a culture shock. But, you know, it really taught me a lot. You know, it really taught me a lot. And that's why, you know, like when we're talking about the military and youth, and even letting them know, like, hey, even though I was prior service, I don't necessarily want to push you that direction. But if you do go down that direction, like, listen up, because there's some things that, you know, you really need to look out for when you head into these duty stations and different things like that, and just the type of mentality to really incorporate into galvanize for yourself, because that's what's really going to make it. It's not really, it took me a little bit of time to realize this. It's not really the location of the duty station, is truly, you know, one part what you put into it, like they always say. And another part is just trying to find your groove while you're stationed, wherever that may be. Find a community, find some, you know, something that you can feel connected to, because as you know, the military has a good way of really absorbing all your being, all your time, attention, energy. And it requires that at certain parts, but you have to have that time to decompress and you know, have companionship outside of that uniform. Otherwise, some days, like you said, you know, it gets very hard, and it's even worse if that's all you have to kind of look at when you're in that environment. I mean, I started just finding different things that I may be interested in, you know, powerlifting. That's how I ended up actually getting into powerlifting. Started going to Kansas. Fort Riley had so many gyms there. Probably all the bases I've been to, they probably had the most, you know, lavish gyms, if you will, or just kind of niche gyms. So one had just like rock climbing or, you know, wall climbing type of stuff in there, different things that you can try your hand at and join different clubs. And I encourage anyone that's listening, if you're thinking about going into the military, and, you know, once you get to that duty station, I encourage you to do that. You know, go to the gyms, go to the FRGs, go to, you know, all these different resources that's on post, and really buy into the, you know, the community that's there. And that kind of what led me to how I am now that I'm back home, with really seeking out those communities and really learning how to embed yourself in them, how to create that network, and really get some powerful things accomplished.
Yeah, I would tell you, you know, again, I did 25 years in the service, right? And so I would see young sailors, soldiers, airmen, Marines, whoever it was, show up, and I was young. So, you know, my first couple of years, I partied like a lot of young people did. You know, I really wasn't focused. I really wasn't thinking about the bigger picture. I wasn't thinking about getting my investments game up to get my retirement situation figured out. I wasn't, you know, like a lot of young people, you're not thinking about that. You're grateful to be out of the situation you were in. You're optimistic for whatever could come. and you got a lot of really good friends real fast.
Right.
Because I mean, something about young service members, we all connect real quick, and we want to, and we're just friends, because y'all are in Kansas, we were in Japan, right? So you got a bunch of young Americans in Japan from all over the country,
right?
We're from all walks of life, and it's like, what are we gonna do tonight, man? And we didn't really know, and so we would figure out what to get into every night, right? And we would. I would like to say we were always, for the most part, good, but we were clubbing, we were out walking around, checking out the country, whatnot, having those life experiences that we all, when we get together to this day, we laugh about it and we remember the good times, But then I learned, and I talked to the students about this at the school too, as I learned, not to operate like a zombie, right? Like, you ever watch that movie Zombieland?
Yeah. Yep.
So you got to double tap him, right? You got to double tap. And he's talking about, you can act like a zombie, and the zombies may not try to eat you.
Yeah.
And I tell the students, I'm like, I'm looking at all these kids walking around this high school every day, and I used to say the same thing to the sailors. I'm like, I look at all these sailors walking on the ship, all these sailors walking around the installation every day. They all looking the same. They all looking like a bunch of zombies. And I get that. But life is way too much fun to live activated, right? Activated. And so you've got to find something that's going to inspire you to want to get out of that zombie mentality and step into this space of like, I'm energized by what I'm doing. And to your credit, to your point, physical fitness is a big one for the service, right? Or going out and doing sightseeing, doing personal education, recognizing that I'm not just here to be an instrument of what this branch of service needs me to be. I've also got an agenda to accomplish while I'm here. And, a lot of people, because I'll tell you, and this probably as well, the longer you stay in, the harder it gets to separate work from home, right?
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, whenever someone tells me, I'm not the same person I am at work that I am at home, I just kind of always chuckle, because that don't work at a lot of levels.
No, it doesn't.
If you're ethically flawed at home, I cannot trust in you as a leader at work. And if you're not a good leader at work, why would I want to be near you at home?
Yeah.
Right? It's just, those things don't work. And so they've got to mature past that point. But we also got to understand that life's going to go on, right? And who am I? Who are you outside of this situation? But it's the same thing with like relationships. It's the same thing with any occupation, and it's really just that when I look in the mirror, do I know who I am and what I stand for, and why I'm trying to do what I'm doing? And when I talk to people about, because I love what I do, because I got to work with people. It's my passion. People are my passion, without a doubt. I love leadership, training, development, and I love leading teams.
Right.
Like, my favorite thing about my job is I got about 180 students on my back that we'll put the work in. They'll come and do work.
Yeah.
Those kids are they're pretty solid, man. Like, we went and did a competition like 2 weeks ago, this Iron Bear competition, right? And we won second place. Last year we won third place. We're coming for first.
Yeah.
Right? But what's funny about this is, before I got to Vanguard, they weren't even competing at this event. This was all these other schools from all across Florida, but out of nowhere, here comes Marion County, just stomping, right? Because we prepare, we plan, and I tell these kids, I'm like, I want to make noise where they ask, like, damn, where's Vanguard from? Oh, Marion County, where is that? We're Ocala, we're up there by Gainesville. We're in that north central Florida corridor. And ask about us, and it can be done because you're going to put that work in. And that's what leaders can do for their people.
Right.
And that's hopefully, and then the best way people learn is they watch, they see your example and they model it. So how long did you end serving in the military total?
So I ended up serving 6.5, starting to close in on that latter half of the portion where I'm about to come in on my 7th year. And then I ended up injuring both of my legs pretty bad. And then after that, I was about a year and a half ordeal between when it was initially recognized and then the day of separation. So I spent about a year and a half in just trying to figure out what was going on and trying to get to a solution. Turned every stone over and got to the last solution, if you want to call it that. And it was a surgery, but it was only a 22.5% success rate chance. And so no one was going to touch me with that low of a success rate. And the recovery for the surgery was an additional 9 months. So you do the math, you're talking, a long time. You have a young, buck sergeant, sideline. I was getting ready to get my promotable status, everything else, getting ready to go try to lock in an ALC date so that I can go to ALC and then, eventually get my E6, my staff sergeant, and, all this hit unfolded. So it was a punch to the gut, but maturity has taught me that, God had other plans. I truly mean that. That's not, I understand sometimes people may feel like that's a cliche or that's a cop out, but for as much as I love the military, and I tell people this all the time, for as much as I loved it, I feel now where I am currently, I'm living for one of the first times, if that makes sense. Because it's the military at that point in time, it was like, the way I see it was like my training ground. That's taught me everything to get me prepared to do what it is I do now. Okay. And so I tremendously respect my time in the service because, like I said, I don't think I could be doing what I'm doing now without that experience. Okay. I know that I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing now without that experience. So it's just a testament. But I'm happy and I feel fulfilled. So it's definitely, so if anyone's listening that's post-military and may struggle with finding that, it can be achieved. I promise you. It takes some soul searching. It takes some just getting out there, putting yourself out there, and not being afraid to just present yourself for however good or ugly, bad it may be. All those parts are who you are. Put yourself out there and see where you really start to find what you feel your purpose is, and walk in it boldly.
How are your legs now?
Now they're manageable. Some days, like last week, especially when the temperature dropped initially, I had that achy, kind of irritated type feeling in my legs. So there's times where I get reminded. I've just gotten so used to it, for one part, and then two, because I still remain active, because I still, work out and do everything within reason to keep my body strong. It essentially buys me time, so it's not as bad. So I have to keep it up. There's times where, life has life for me, and I may, we all have those moments. I love the gym, but as a lifter, we've had those moments where it's like, look, it's a lot going on right now. I'm gonna take about a week off, and every time you take that week off, you think you're gonna feel a little bit better, but you don't.
Nah.
You just
nah. It's a facade, man. People think it's not realistic, right?
It's not.
People tell. So again, school teacher, right? Mm-hmm. What I do now. So we had the week off of school, from being in school, and all my friends or people that I work with, even my wife is like, you done started this business, you do those other things, like, because, I like to be busy. I like to have a lot going on, because I know that the longer I stay active mentally, physically, and following my heart, following what I feel is the calling that for the road that's being laid in front of me, whatever my yellow brick road is going to be, as I'm going to find the wizard or whatever, right? I feel like if I'm walking in the right direction, it's going to be something that continues to inspire and fulfill me. And so, and then when I go, the students, they're all gonna be like, "Oh, Master Chief, I don't want to come back yet. I'm gonna be in there tomorrow morning, like, hey, I missed you, I missed y'all. Let's go to work." And I think that's something about living a fulfilled life, right? And I think you're talking about having faith is critical, right? And Well, I appreciate the people out there might think is cliche. Unfortunately, they have not yet had something that hit them to the point where they can recognize that uh, everything can change in a minute, right?
Yeah.
And when that change hits, and unfortunately, it's almost always going to be a medical thing, or it's going to be a financial thing, or it's going to be something that's going to remind you that you're not going to get there on your own. And I love leveraging family and friends. I love utilizing people to support me, but there ain't no one like God, man. Like,
no one.
And that's it, right? And that's God brought me to Ocala. I believe that straight up and down. Like, I believe I was going to Titusville, right? Like, I was working a job in Titusville, and nothing against Titusville, but that was the plan for like a year. And then all of a sudden Vanguard popped up on the radar. I talked to the gentleman, he hired me, and bada boom, bada bing. My last day in the Navy was July 31st. My first day of civilian life was August 1st, and I was a high school teacher. And what's crazy is I was on terminal leave from the service, and I fell through my roof and broke my back and busted my head open. So I almost died on freaking terminal leave, man. Like, I was so. And my wife, more than one person was like, that was God's way. You need to sit down, because I thought I was free and clear from the service, that I could just take all this stress off my mind and stop paying attention, and a slip, trip, and a fall could change your life, right? And that's just a reminder to always pay attention to what you're doing and to not ever take your eye off of the prize, right? And I will tell you that I'm looking forward to getting into this part of this next conversation, because I know the same reason that you're doing what you're doing now is exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing now. I could have, I was, I got the education, I got the accolades, I got the career, all those other good things. But man, I love working with people. I love serving my community. People would always ask me what I want to do after the military. And I know what they meant. They meant, like, did I want a 6-figure salary,
right,
for some other business, to do whatever. And I was like, man, I want to find a good church. I want to find a good community, and I want to be able to invest there and put down roots, because my family moved so much throughout my career, and I wanted to find America, right? That idea of what I wanted, of what I hoped America could be still, because I knew it was out there. It wasn't on the news. It ain't on the news, but I knew it was out there. And when I was asking God for all those things, and even when I got hurt, I remember they called me up in the hospital, and I was like, look, I'm gonna be there day one. I walked out the hospital the next day, like, I'm out of here. Let me out this joker. I'm going home, right? And they didn't fire me. They were there for me. They stood by me. They said, Master Chief, we're not going nowhere. And those were the kind of people that I knew I needed to be around. People that still stood by their word, that still would, shake your hand and say, what can we do as a community to rally around you while you get better? And so now I'm all into trying to help these children for Vanguard High School, plus, the adults in the community, that if I can help with them with leadership training and or development to help them go out and find new good things. And just, I can't wait to be at those football games, 20 years from now, and see my kids all grown up with their babies.
Yeah.
And they've been, oh, there's old Master Chief over there, So you get out of the Army, you come back. Did you come right back to Marion County?
Yeah, came right back. My immediate family, they're all here. And so I came back home. And when I came back home, I was just like, I don't know, I was just kind of in a weird mental space.
That's tough, man. That's not how you plan on coming back home.
Yeah. So even I'm being picked up from the airport, and and I put my bags in the car. I'm happy to see my mom. Anytime I'm home, happy to see my mom, everything else. And I'm just in the car, and I'm just, driving through Orlando, coming back to Marion County. I'm just thinking the whole time. I'm like, man, like, I remember when I left here, and I felt a similar way. But when I left, it was on that bus from Melps to go to Georgia. Hey. And, I'm sitting there listening to some music on the way, and it hit me. And I'm like, I'm truly leaving home. Like, I'm not sleeping in my own bed tonight. I'm not seeing, you know, my mom, grandmom, and stepdad and everyone tonight. Like, nah, this was real. And I had like this nervous excitement. I was excited. I'm like, man, but it's exciting, you know. So, but now I'm coming home and it's like, okay, kind of feeling that same feeling I did before, but it's a little bit different. And so, you know, I'm just in the car, I'm driving home, and you know, my mom was talking to me and everything, and I'm hearing her, but I'm not. I'm just kind of, I'm like, man, what is going to be next? You know, I'm coming back home, but this time I actually have to focus on what home is now, because all the other times before is I'm coming home, but I'm home on leave. So I'm home just to have a good time. I'm home just to hang out with family and to go out and then do different things. I'm going back to the real world for me. And so it's like, okay.
But you're also coming off that year of going through all that hell you went through with all the medical stuff, right?
Yeah.
And look, I did a long time with the service. I've seen a lot of people go through it. And when it comes to government medicine, it's hard, man. Like just trying to work your way through that by yourself. You almost got to be a lawyer to figure it all out.
No, yeah, so much paperwork, and then it's the ego hit too. You know, you're a young upcoming, you know, Sergeant E5. At this point, I'm stationed in Hawaii, so I'm with the 25th ID. So I'm out in Hawaii. You know, I'm loving life, everything. I'm doing my thing, and this life event happens, and you know, now you see everyone that they're grabbing their gear, getting ready to go, you know, to the range or go do this, and you know, you got to stay back because you have, you know, a profile and all this other stuff. So it's like
it's tough.
It's a mental challenge that's really a lot of people don't talk about it, because it's like it's already that stigma, especially in combat arms, where you don't even go to sick call. You know, even if something wrong with you, you don't go.
None of us do, because none of us want to be told to go home.
Yeah, right?
That's why most of us, we typically don't say nothing till the end, and then we be like, all this stuff is wrong with me, and then how long has it been, brother? But and so I think that, I mean, my heart goes out to you, because I can only imagine what you went through, man. I could just. And I can hear it in your voice, being in Hawaii now and being in So you're on the bus. You've been through that whole traumatic experience, right? That whole year, that whole walk back home now. And did you get any college or anything while you're in the military?
Nah. So I attempted when I was in Kansas. I attempted to go to school. We had a phenomenal command team. We had First Sergeant Patrick Lockett and Captain Jabari Jackson. I still in contact with my former commander even now. It was one of those relationships where they were so hard on you in their own special way that you almost kind of hated them, but you loved them at the same time. And the love grew for them the longer, you know, you matured in that profession, in the military. Because then you start to realize, like, oh, okay, that's why they were like that, or that's why they were doing certain things. So and they definitely, I give kudos to them for as active as they had us, because they really pushed us to try and be like the top troop in just not even in our squadron, but just the best unit on that base. And we accomplished a lot of things. I mean, we had a lot of division streamers, different things like that. So they pushed us really hard, but they also wanted to push our education as well, because they understood where the military was going at the time. It wasn't just about being the fast runner, the best shot. You had to be, you know, you have to have that education and really start to strive for it. So I enrolled and everything else, and then we got put on this pretty rigorous training cycle, and so we had to basically pull out those college courses. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to get it done in that moment, but I was able to get some certifications knocked out, and that's what I tell people. And Captain Jackson always had a quote that I live by even to this day, and he will always say, "Hustle while you wait." while you're waiting for something, hustle, find something that you can be doing that's going to help you progress. And so if I couldn't do school, well, I did certifications, and a lot of those certifications, they've turned out to help me even now. So, again, to anyone listening, hey, hustle while you wait, find it, find it while you're sitting there going through it, and make good of your time.
I just bring it up because, that's what we all think about when it comes to the end of our time in the service.
Right.
And it don't matter if you do 4 years or 24 years. All of us are like, damn, I ain't got no college. I better get some stuff done.
Yeah.
I'm going to get some certification. I'm gonna go to Army cool. I'm going to go to Navy cool. I'm going to get some credentials, or I'm going to, because I remember, trying to figure out how to write a resume. Right.
Yeah.
And like going through TAP class or our transition class to be prepared to get out of the service. I'm like, man, I got to write a resume. Like, what the heck? Like, what am I going to even put on this thing? And how I'm going to translate all these things I did in the military into civilian speak.
Right.
But then I had this idea in my mind that, well, civilians are only going to want to see college degrees to get myself through the door. And what I've learned, and I knew it already. I knew it when I was in the service. I just was telling myself a lie.
Right.
All of that stuff just gets you in the door. It's your ability to communicate. It's your ability to show them, answer what they need from you, and then to give them more than they ever thought possible.
Right.
And because, you learned at a young age how to manage challenging situations. As you said, those leaders that were a little tougher on you in those circumstances that caused you to question, like, why are they so dang hard on us? And then you get older and you recognize it's because they wanted to make sure that you got that grit, that you're not just going to quit. You're not just going to tap out. And I tell that to my students all the time. Because I'll just look at them and they'll start quivering. And they'll be like, I'll tell myself, look, I love you so much that I want you to be able to handle a person like me and be able to communicate still, and not just walk away and not say anything because you're afraid to have a confrontational conversation. Because not every conversation is going to just be peaceful. And not every conversation is going to be super polite. And, oh, by the way, we're not being impolite. We're just not being super freaking nice. Yeah. Right? Let's have a matter-of-fact conversation about this matter-of-fact issue, and let's get it done quickly because we got other things to do, period.
Yep.
And to take the emotions out the back and put them away somewhere else because, but you know what I found? And you know what? These students are such a breath of fresh air because the leading service members, my last 6-7 years, I was a command master chief. Oh my God. I would spend so much time with the most knuckleheads.
Yeah.
Right? Because, I'd give all my other senior leaders, all the star players, and I'd get all the jokesters that were just being challenges. And I was just so frustrated. Then I come back down here to America and I'm teaching high school, and these kids are out there just ready to go. Mm-hmm. They're not babies. They're not whiners. They're not complaining. They want opportunity. And I would tell this to my peers. They'd ask me, what did I think about working in high school? I'd say, the difference between this and where I was just at was I was leading a bunch of people who were getting paid twice a month with full benefits to be there. A lot of these kids are going back and living in some tough stuff.
Yes.
And they handling their business every day. They come into work, they come into school, they putting on their uniform, they proud to do it. They walk into school, they maneuver in rides, they got their auntie picking them up, their cousin dropping them off. Like, they're making all this stuff happen. Meanwhile, I was just babysitting a bunch of grown supposed people who was just really challenging me. And again, I don't know where the disconnect happens, where they lose what these kids are showing me, because they got grit. These kids, they got grit. My cadets have grit. They do. But they also got to want it, right? Mm-hmm. They see ROTC, or they see the military, or they see education, or they see athletics as a way to possibly change their future. And so they're going to do whatever they can do to get onto that ride.
Right.
Whereas sometimes people get into the service or they get into the job field. I don't know. Do you ever read David Goggins?
Yeah. I've read. Yeah.
So David Goggins got that one story where he talked about the job interview, right? Where you got your job interview and you get up the day for your job interview and you eat your breakfast early and you got your stuff all ironed and laid out. Yep. But then, you get the job, and 6 months later, you're looking lackluster and zombie. You're looking like a zombie because complacency has set in and you lost that energy.
That passion, that passion, that passion is so important. I mean, in the military, you get so bogged down by the routine. I know for us at least, you already knew Monday was going to be motor pool Mondays. You're going to be working on vehicles from the time work call started to about 4:45, 5 p.m. At 1700, getting ready to knock off for the day. Tuesdays we're going to be some type of admin or sergeant's time training. Wednesday, same thing. Thursday, largely same thing. Friday, you hope that it's just a quick police call, area beautification, and then you got the exit. Basically like the formation, but it is easy to get caught into that, and I think a lot of times this is outside of just the military as well. This is in civilian sectors. The way that I view it, at least for me, this is just my opinion. The job, the benefits, the paycheck, all that stuff, that's good. Those are the things that we know that we have to sustain our families and other things that we may want to do. But I see it as, okay, now that I have that, like, really use that opportunity to push yourself at the individual level to find what else is out there that you can plug yourself into and leave you a mark, if you will. And I was always raised that no matter where you go in life or what room you walk into, you need to leave it better than you found it. So it's just constantly having that mentality of wherever I go, I have to see some improvement of that group, that business, whatever it may be, because I'm in here now. I have to see that. And so that has been a way I've been able to, kind of keep myself pushing forward. Keep always trying to find that next thing that I can do that is not for self-gain, is not for all that, it's just to make that mark, to do something right, to do something that's been neglected, to do something that's been, just talked about, but no actual actions have been applied to see it achieved and completed. So that's kind of my drive that kind of keeps that stagnation at bay, because if you don't, it will creep on you. It'll creep on anybody.
Hey, Allen Iverson said it the best. He said, we talk about practice.
Yeah, talking about practice.
Because look, in the military mind, I joined the Navy in 1997, right? I was there. I was in this. I've been to Iraq a few times, right? I could tell the stories. I've done the things, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to say I'm some Marine that ran around through Fallujah or whatnot, because I wasn't. The Navy had a different role, but I've got some good stories still, right? We went through some tough things. And I remember thinking, this is what we're really here to do. And it was so hard to go back to being regular after those things, right? Because when you go from being full operational, like, we're going to take away all the stuff that typically is your number one problem, because we just need y'all to get this done. And man, we can make miracles happen.
Yeah.
But then we back, like you said, motor pool on Monday, admin on Tuesday. We're just like, man, this is not what we trained to do. But then what I learned as I went my way up through the chain and gained more rank and gained more people, and even now in the school, is just like, look, I look at the football team. They putting that work in for practice for those games. So my team needs games that they can put their practice to work and they can show value for it, right? And exactly. So I gotta get more games lined up. And when I was in the Navy, I would have to show my people, like, look, COVID, that was a battle that we didn't see coming. I'll tell you that straight up and down. You would have never told me that my last operational deployment was going to be on an installation on a small island named Guam during the pandemic. But it sure was. It sure was, right? And I can tell you stories from that. That was it was very, very, very challenging. But it's learning how to find these things that are going to tax your team so that you can take all the practice you're putting into it to achieve results. Right. And then you're going to look at each other like, man, we did that. Like you were saying about how your team in Kansas had all the streamers and the accolades. That was what that commander was doing, right? He was like, look, we're going to get these things done to be the best that we can be. And there are ways that we can manage our success. The difference is in the civilian sector, number one, There might be some people telling you that you're being successful, but a lot of times, especially if you're the leader, you got to determine what the goalposts are.
Right.
Right. And because not everyone's going to be shooting as high as maybe you want to shoot. I mean, that's one thing I've learned. I've got goalposts for my team that I think I want them to shoot high as possible. And everyone else is like, why? Well, why not? Why would I not want these children to learn how to raise goals to such a level as they could even go farther on their own without me? Right? Because if they just continue to think that my future goal is going to be just a basic minimum wage job in the future after going to like Marion Tech or whatever, like that's great too. I'm not knocking it, but I'm just saying, like, bro, when you're young, why not?
Yeah, push.
I know where I came from.
Yeah,
I didn't get here because I didn't shoot for the stars. You know, we used to have a saying in the Navy, you know, I'm gonna shoot for the stars. So I'm gonna shoot for the stars, and if anything, I might hit the moon, right? Like. But you got to have those high level goals. And then you've got to be a leader out there and show them that you're also achieving your goals. And together, everyone can win, right? We all win if we don't care who gets the credit, right? That's another thing that I think matters a lot. So how did you get involved with the Kut Different team when you came back to Marion County?
So when I came back, fast forward a few years, at this point, I'm working at Zone Health and Fitness. So now the mayor, Mayor Ben Marciano, he hired me. He and the rest of the staff, they helped me out with just kind of get integrated into the professional side of the gyms. And so while I was working through the gym industry here locally, between Zone Health and Fitness and then eventually Gold's Gym, I started looking at going back to school and different things of that nature. And started going back to school. At first, I was going physical to be a physical therapist. And once I had started that, a friend had suggested to me, because of the way that the industry for that was changing, and because I was just getting on that path and he was deeper into the pipeline, he's like, hey, man, I'm not telling you what to do, but I love, you might want to look at, changing up because this whole industry is shifting. He was a Marine as well. So, he did me a solid by telling me that. Then I started looking at, political science. So I started getting political science here locally. And that really, once I really started paying attention even more so to just the way that our society was going down that path. I always saw it, but I always saw it through the lens of the military. It was more so like, we're out here trying to do X, Y, and Z. Our civilians, our people back home, I don't know what they're doing. They got all this kind of crazy stuff going on. I don't have time to even invest in all of that.
That's a true problem.
Yeah.
There is a military class, and there's a political class, and then there is a class of people that are not in either one of them. Yeah. And that's the majority, right?
Yeah, that's the majority.
It's a huge problem. We knew about that in the service too, because unfortunately the majority of our recruits come from the military class, which means the majority of people that join the military have connection to the military already. Right. And there is a very large population in our country that has no connection to the military, nor do they ever want to serve. But it's not about just serving in the military. Serving is a lot of things. It's law enforcement, it's teaching, it's public health. There's a lot of ways to serve in your community. So you started getting into political science, and then I'm into it.
Now I'm starting to see it from. I'm like, okay, I don't want to take my full military lens off. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna keep one military. I'm gonna keep one civilian lens. So I'm looking at the things that's going on, and I'm like, all right. Something has to be done, because I hear all this talk, I hear all this complaint about certain stuff, but I don't really see too many people actually out there moving. And to, not to offend anyone, it was just, especially at this time here in Marion County, we have a dissemination of information debacle. The information flow here is so disjointed sometimes, that you can have one side of the county know what's going on, and the other half is in the dark. So, I'm just like, well, at least I'm not hearing about anyone out here actually trying to fix some of these issues that's going on. So I'm like, all right, well, let me put my ears to the ground a little bit lower. So my wife, she started looking around at different orgs and different places that, based on my personality and different things I may be interested in, bringing my insights to and my efforts. So she came across Kut Different, and then even the mayor as well, who was helping me out, he mentioned Kut Different as well. So I'm like, all right, well, that's 2 for 2, and those were obviously my wife, and then someone else that I also, I have a good relationship with, mentioning this organization. So let me look more into it. So I looked into it, and then come to find out the 2 co-founders went to North Marion High as well. So I recognize their names and obviously their image. So I'm like, okay, yeah, no, I remember them. And so I remember I reached out, I think, via email first, and then the next day I followed up with a phone call, and then we set up a meeting, and then went to the meeting, and just kind of caught up, refreshed our memories of one another, and then one thing led to another, and I'm 3 years in now. And so been just doing good work ever since, and just helping out however I can, whether that's, insights, whether that's just my, my energy, my networking ability, whatever it may be, just helping out. And then of course, just building the relationship with the young men that we're entrusted with under our care. Just being a mentor to those young men, and being just a force multiplier in their lives, because a lot of our youth need that. They need people to understand that someone believes in you, someone cares about you. So something I do a lot of times, I tell the young man, I'm like, look, I'm not saying you've never been told this before, but this is just a reassurance policy from my end. If no one ever told you before that they want you to win, you're about to hear it today. And I truly mean that. Every person that come across me, I'm blessed. I can truly say I'm blessed. I live a blessed life. What does it do for me to hold anyone back, especially a kid, from really understanding their true potential in this life and going for it, and having that win at their back and that support? That's vital, and that can keep a lot of these kids off the streets, off of narcotics, out of gangs, out of just foolishness that can mar your life for its entirety. We see it all too often, but like I said, a lot of times we're very sluggish with actually being that resource to alleviate that need. Or a lot of times they'll cop out and say, well, that ain't my kid, that's their kid, they need to take care of that kid. Well, guess what? Crime doesn't care if that person comes from your family or not. Bad things is indiscriminate, so you can't have this discriminatory lens to where or how you apply your aid. If you can do it, it's, at least in my belief, my opinion, that you should do it.
Yep, definitely. And I think that, everything you said, spot on. When I first told the kids at school about that Kut Different had invited us to be involved, oh my God, so many of them had connections to Kut Different. Yeah. A lot of females are in a lot of young ladies are in my program, and a lot of them have younger brothers or younger cousins that have been involved with the Kut Different program. So the brand is strong in the community. Mm-hmm. At least from the kids' perspective, right? They understood what it was about, and they saw the value in it. And one thing that I talked to them about at the beginning of this year was I wanted us to do more events in Marion County, because all of our competitions are like Orlando, Tampa, and that's great. I don't mind. I drive the school bus. We'll go down there, we'll compete, and we'll do great things. But that's not our hometown. Like, I want them to be proud of performing for their people locally, right. And for the younger. Well, we did the Veterans Day thing, right, at the park remember all the kids were out there, all the elementary school kids were sitting out there. I was like, y'all, I hope y'all were proud of how you looked out there today, because how many little kids you think was out there sitting on the grass like, oh, that's Vanguard over there. We want to be at Vanguard someday, because we came in there looking deep, right? We came in looking solid, and I wanted them to have that energy, because, I'm proud of that. I'm proud of our school. I'm proud of our area that we live at, and I'm proud of representing our community to the fullest. And those kids are too, and I know they are.
Oh yeah, you can see it.
Oh, definitely. And I'm looking forward to working with you for forever, bro. I'm not going anywhere. I'm gonna be here for a long time. I'm sure that we're both going after very similar markets, which is working with the youth, right? So I got nothing more. I want nothing more than to see you win, right? Because if you're winning, our community's gonna win. So let's talk real quick about Saturday. What's Saturday shaping up to look like?
So Saturday is our 5th annual Community Fun Day. So each year, we want to add different elements to it and really just further expand it. So this year we've reached out to, individuals like yourself and Vanguard's ROTC. And then we have even the veteran part, extending aid and the Heritage Foundation as well. So, really just expanding on it and really just showcasing what our community is. But keeping the focus that all of this is for our youth, because that's our future. We're only getting older. These kids are eventually they're going to grow up and be our new leaders, our healthcare providers, and different things like that. So, what better way to really send off the year than to come out, enjoy yourselves at Central Christian Church off of 14th Street, and we have from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m., a full day of just community engagement and just camaraderie with people from different walks of life. And that's why we really try to have this blend of, people that come out to the Community Fun Day. And that's just vital to making it be what it's intended to be. It's intended to bring people together. It's intended to galvanize our community. And during the best time of the year, during the holiday season, you have friends, family, everyone already, congregating around, just keep amping it up, and having the venues and locales to just host, what it is that we truly believe is paramount, most important. And that's family, and that's our youth.
Sounds good. Hey, so the kickball thing, I told the cadets about the kickball thing, and they come into place. How many teams are going to be playing kickball?
So we're going to have anywhere between 8 to 10 teams. Planet Fitness, they all always bring a team out, and they're pretty stacked. So
yeah, they better be. It's a gym. They adults. What the heck? Why are adults?
Hey, they like to roll deep, so I'm pretty sure they won. They won last year, but it's the kickball is a fun time. I mean, you have mixed groups. You have you can have some teenagers versus a team with some kids and some adults on it, or whatever. But again, the whole purpose is just to come out and have a good time and really just break bread with one another, even through a competitive lens. Just fun. Yeah. I mean, only one trophy can be handed out. So, whoever wants it the most, they can come out there and put forth their best kick.
What's funny about that is kickball is my cadets, no kidding, it's their favorite PT.
Uh-oh.
Oh, for sure. But they hate it when I'm the pitcher because it's my rules, right? But no, they are looking forward to coming out there and performing. We're looking to do all of our different drill performances that we can offer. And then we're going to do kickball, right? And hopefully we'll go as far as we can. And then, a week later is the parade. And we've got all these cool events here in Ocala that these kids can get out and represent and then get exposure to other people and learn about other things and learn about opportunities that are not, hopefully they find a lot of good opportunities in Ocala, Marion County, because there is a ton. This place is blowing up.
Oh, right? Yes, it is. Yeah.
And I've only been here for 3 years, but I'm dying here. I'm not leaving. My youngest son is 10. When I moved here, he was 7. So he'll be, to him, Ocala's going to be home on top of everything else, And what I don't want him to do is miss out on all the opportunities that are coming to this hometown because he doesn't activate and go out and get what he needs to become a part of these opportunities. Because there's a lot of opportunities for homegrown people that live here in Florida, live in Ocala, not just people that are moving here to this area from other parts of the country,
And that's pretty core at what the purpose of Kut Different is, and that's why I'm so glad that we were able to link up, because like you said, that shared vision and that shared goal, because just like you said, it's one thing to have a child move here and to not understand the opportunities, but it's just downright heart shattering to have a kid be born and raised here and not understand what opportunities are here. So that exposure piece is so important. And we have to show kids that even in your home, there's opportunity. You don't have to take this youth flight that we see all the time to go do something. You can do it right here.
And I'll tell you something else, man. And that Big Pack, that's Wise Leadership Solutions, bro. I'm all about that. But for me, I'm looking at professionals and young adults because that's separate and on top of what I already do in high school, right? But I want to give these young adults or these professionals the abilities to walk in the room and be a communicator and to be a competitor for any position within our within our area that they qualify for. Right. And if they don't qualify for it on that day, let's talk about it. Let's figure it out. Let's go back and get it again because the opportunities ain't going to stop coming here. Nope. It's going to just keep going and going and going. And we should all want that to happen because that's how we're all going to keep winning is we're not going to ever turn technology off. We're never going to go backwards in time. So instead of fighting it and denying it, figure out how you can jump in and be involved and work it without losing these solid values of connection and friendship and a community, right? And then, oh, by the way, God help us if things ever go sideways. I like my people close enough to me that we can get together and be okay. Because, again, I think that way. Right?
Like I said, keep one military lens on at all times. You know, you have to.
I do, you know, and I really believe in that. And so, Myles, man, I really want to thank you for your time. I really do. I appreciate you getting with me on this holiday weekend. Everyone's going back to school tomorrow. I'm excited to get the word out about the Community Fun Day this Saturday.
Yes, sir.
My cadets and I are going to be out there by 10:30.
Yes, sir.
I'm bringing out our trailer because when you see our trailer, I think I showed it to you before, but like half of it is like historic, you know,
yes,
so
sir.
USS Ocala, USS Marion County, because I want people to see that we are connected to the Navy here as well as to the other areas, plus the big bombing range, you know, which is right over there, keeping me up at night, but whatever. I heard about that, and I was like, that's crazy. There's a Navy bombing range out here. That's awesome. But I want them to also know that, you know, the Vanguard Knights, when they see the trailers, we represent them everywhere we go. It says Marion County, Florida, Ocala, Florida, on the side of our trailer. If you need anything, let me know between now and then. I do got cadets that want to volunteer as well.
Yeah.
And so my plan for them to come in like an ROTC shirt, and then I'll just kind of connect with you, and I'll probably give you like a lead cadet and say, all right, this is the person in charge of all these people. Let them know what you need to do, whether it's pick up trash, whether it's just say hi to people and be nice and you know, be whatever.
Yes, sir.
And for them, they get community service hours coming out and helping, right? And so for them, it works for their bright futures or whatnot. Well, hey, brother, I appreciate the conversation, man. I really do. Thank you so much for your time. Any save rounds?
I would just, I appreciate, you know, everything that you're doing over there at Vanguard with those youth. I've seen it myself, you know, sharp bunch, very respectable bunch. I can see quite a few of them having some strong futures in the military. That's what they wish to do. But even outside of the military, you can just tell. You can just tell by the confidence and how they walk and just how they approach different people that day. I just observed. And so I tip my hat off to you. And just from someone that was born and raised here, again, I appreciate you coming into, you know, my home, if you will, with the mentality of you want to see it thrive. You want to see it, you know, really become its full potential. And I have nothing but respect for that. I appreciate you for, you know, agreeing to come out and help us out with the Community Fun Day as well. That's big. And just showing that networking to our youth and our kids in general, just showing how things get done, you know, get together, come together, and just let's make it happen and have a good time doing it.
Facts. All right, brother. Well, I appreciate you, man. With that being said, I think we're going to sign off here, and I will see you soon.
All right. Good night.
All right, man. Thank you for your time. Good night, everybody.